Cassandra Cousineau, your girl, the Sportsnista, here with Sean Porter ahead of the very big matchup with Errol Spence. About a week and a half away. Now, we've been told we got 3 minutes, so we're going to spar in here for like 3 minutes. You're the champ, but I'm 6'11" on the inside, so let's get to it. You have the belts. You've had a career where you haven't had belts. If it all goes away today, what are you most proud of?
The fact that I did it. My dad we were kind of talking numbers the other day about how many guys, you come up with, you start boxing against at the age of 8 years old, and all the way up until now, how many of those guys, a lot of them had the potential, didn't even turn professional. Some of them had the potential to turn professional and made it, so far. I'm a part of a very, very small group of guys, myself, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, and my quad, Daniel Jacobs as well, a few other guys that have been able to get to this point that a lot of fighters, a lot of people dream to be in. So I'm just proud that I've been able to weather every storm that I've weathered and make it to this point.
That looks good.
Here with Vinny Paz, because you in the shot.
You're good with this. Wow.
I'm kind of a
The
professional.
cameraman's a
You know what I
good-looking
mean? Yeah, doing her thing. Being inducted in the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame. Take me to the moment in your career where you're like, I don't know if I can make, because you've made so many comebacks. Yeah. Is there a moment when you thought that maybe there wasn't one more left in you?
That's a great question. It's a great question. Yeah, there was a couple of moments that I know what's going to happen. Fights that you didn't think were going to go down the way you thought they were going to go down. And there have been a couple of times where I had to question myself, but I was just born to fight, and that was it.
Cassandra Cousineau, your girl, the Sportsnista, here with Teofimo Lopez, the IBF lightweight champ. How's your night been?
Amazing. I just made a couple $1,000.
What?
A few $1,000. I made the bet on Tyson Fury winning by knockout. And, right now I'm about to go on my way to go cash it in.
Good for you, and great for Tyson Fury, too, because it seemed like everything he said is what he did. But tell me the significance of the jab in that fight, especially early.
Oh, the thing was, those were the keys for these guys, both of them. Not just on one side, it was both of them. The key was who was going to use the jab and who was going to use it more. And that was going to determine who was going to win the fight. And obviously, Fury started it with a strong, meaningful jab, and he ended it the way he did. Honestly, it shows. And Wilder could have done the same thing, but, it just wasn't his night tonight.
Wasn't his night? Looked like, he hurt him early, but he was able to keep that fight on the inside and prevent Wilder from getting that right off. I mean, he was hurt, and he was crowding him. He couldn't get it off.
No, I know. It's very tough. The heavyweight division, anything can happen. And those punches are like 30 of our punches, just one punch alone. So
in terms of making sure that the best fights happen along the way, we've seen kind of promoters getting involved and the fighters getting involved in their own hype. And along the way, the fans have lost out. So how do you see your role evolving and making sure those fights happen?
Well, we have been extremely supportive of unification bouts. We have promoter tournaments. We have flexibility, and we reach out to try to support promoters and networks and invite them to do the best. And it's happening. Many promoters are understanding the need to have the best fight the best for the benefit of the sport.
What's the best part of heavyweight title fight in Las Vegas?
The hype, the atmosphere, the moments leading to. And then when that bell rings, it's just incredible.
Yeah, it's quite the pedigree that the WBC has had in boxing. In terms of boxing moving forward, what's something you're looking forward to being part of that's maybe a little bit different than what you all have done before?
We are trying to secure the WBC channel, to have it grow. We are working to support amateur boxing. There's a big threat that Olympics will not carry boxing anymore. We're very concerned about it. So just basically continue to strengthen the social responsibility programs and to get the best fights going.
Women's boxing is definitely having a moment this year, but the moment needs momentum, and you've been committed to that momentum and bringing great women's fights every single card, it seems. Uh, how did that evolve for you? I know that after you get one, everybody's knocking on your door, but you seem to be committed.
Yeah, it was Katie Taylor, really. She came into my after. Well, she actually sent me a message on Twitter, and she just won the Olympics, and yeah, she did, and out of respect, I agreed to meet her. I didn't think that I would really do anything in women's boxing. There wasn't really a market for it, and broadcasters weren't really screaming out for women's boxing. And I met her, and she's just inspiring. I thought she was so driven, and I wanted to be part of that journey. So we backed her, and then from there, the explosion's been unbelievable. And she sits, if she can win next week, in front of actually winning, of landing the Serrano fight at Madison Square Garden, which is the biggest female fight of all time. And the purse is now reflecting that, which is really important as well when you talk about equality of pay. Because I always say it's not just about a male middleweight champion should make the same as a female middleweight world champion. It's their commercial value. But when the commercial value is the same, that's when the pay has to be the same. And that's not something that's happened in the past. But now it is happening. Still got a long way to go. But trailblazers like her, Alicia Baumgardner last couple of weeks ago, fantastic. Michaela Mar, Clarissa, we're really seeing females taking female boxing to a new level now.
Let's go to the future now. DAZN, along with ESPN, has really been at the forefront in terms of the streaming services and making boxing much more accessible for fans outside of being glued to pay-per-view. What's the future of pay-per-view? Do you see Matchroom kind of doing a little bit of both, a little pay-per-view and the streaming service? Or it seems like, especially the last quarter of this year, these matches have kind of cannibalized themselves a little bit on pay-per-view.
Totally, and I do see us doing a little bit of both. I think the beauty of DAZN is more affordable boxing, and more value for money for fight fans. I think it's important to have functionality, pay-per-view functionality, the ability to do it if a fight presents itself where you could be sharing it on another platform with pay-per-view, or that fighter will only fight on pay-per-view. But you're right, cannibalisation is the perfect word, because if you look at the process over the last few weeks, you have Canelo Alvarez that's gone out and done a huge amount of buys, as he does, and then you have Crawford Porter that does 130, which is a disaster, and then you have Tank against Isaac Cruz, which could do 50,000 buys at the week. I mean, who knows? And then you've got Jake Paul against Tommy Fury, and then you've got Charles Martin against Luis Ortiz. These pay-per-views, I think the Tank pay-per-view is on Saturday, $74.99. Coming from the UK, I can't even understand how that even works. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would get just taken out of the game. But it's pay-per-view will always exist, and I've never been a pay-per-view is dead campaigner. What I'm saying is, the right fights at the right time will always be pay-per-view. There's too many pay-per-view fights that actually aren't pay-per-view, and there's too many too close together. You can't expect fight fans to pay $80 a month, or $80 every 2 weeks for one night. So, but it's been great for DAZN, because our numbers have gone like that, because fight fans are actually seeing the value and saying, okay, we've watched Canelo Alvarez twice this year. We've watched seeing Haney Diaz, we've got Lopez Cambosas, and it's all part of our subscriptions. Yeah, so I really feel like DAZN is making tremendous strides in the US and globally.
Really appreciate your time. Big weekend for you. Happy to see you in Las Vegas. You've been all around the country, so happy to have you here. Cassandra Cousineau, your girl, the Sportsnista.